Hey everybody, it's Mike with Monkey Fab. Today we're doing continuing on our How to Begin TIG Welding series. This should be episode like 9 maybe, I think. And this is going to be drills number, we already did 1 and 2. That was the flat steel, running lines and running beads. And actually I have no idea. Let's be honest, I have no idea where we're at. I think we might be somewhere up there. But anyway, these are 2 more drills. They're going to help you. I'll label them in the title, and then you'll know which numbers they are. They are drill number question mark. That's a really bad question mark, huh? Question mark. So we've already done the flat. So we've done flat stacking beads on both aluminum and stills, and we did that at different amps at different speeds, and we just tried to learn heat control, and that's what it's all about. It's about heat control. It's about controlling, how that puddle does, in the arc, how much heat's getting into the metal around it, and you should have that figured out by now. If you skip those drills and you have no idea, it's real simple. If you can't make nice looking beads on flat stuff, you're certainly not going to make it on round stuff. Round stuff's pretty tough to deal with. And I'm not trying to knock anybody down. I just want to say, you're going to have to go put your time in. There's one trick. There's one thing you have to be good at TIG welding, and that's practice. Practice. I just gave you that for free. It's amazing. So what we're doing today is we're doing tubes. So I have some, got a couple pieces of tubes. I've already done it, so hopefully the video turned out real well. But this is the number one problem that I see people make when they're welding everything, but tubes especially, is they can't stop. They get going and they're like, I'm just going to keep on welding, and it's impossible because it's round. And to keep your arc height and your arc angle correct, you got to rotate your wrist, and we don't do that real well. I mean, if you want to be, let's be honest with yourself. This isn't something that's very natural, and depending on how you're sitting, it can be almost impossible. For me, I'm old and have some arthritis problems, so it's actually it becomes a little bit difficult, and it's not hard to combat. So what you do is you just do however many dabs you can do, and that might be 6 dabs, it might be 8 dabs. That does a couple things. Number one is it keeps all the metal. If you're doing especially stainless steel, it keeps that metal shielded. If you're using like a number 16 cup, what I usually use if I'm welding stainless steel tubes is a number 16 cup, and I'll do like 6 or 8 dabs, just depends on what I'm comfortable with, and I'll stop and I'll just kind of kick it back, and that keeps that whole thing shielded. So once it the shielding gas stops, they're nice rainbow colored beads that everybody likes to see, and then we just start back up, and it's simple. So we're not trying to go, because as soon as you go too far, it's going to get real crappy looking real quick. That's just fact. So all the same things apply. You're going to have make your puddle, dab to the center of it, move half that distance, dab, move half, dab, move half. One thing I kind of like to do is I like to get my torch height a little bit higher than I normally would, so that the filler can clear it. So maybe obviously a little higher than a 1/16 of an inch. I like to use 1/16 filler on tube. It helps cool it. It keeps the metal cold. I know it sounds retarded, but if you're using thin stuff, it heat soaks. It doesn't pull out the heat from the joint. But anyway, I go a little bit higher, and what I do is I just aim right underneath my arc, just try to drop it right underneath my arc. Hopefully that showed up in the video. If I didn't really have a good rig, because I've just got a little tiny piece of tube, and it wasn't really stabilized well. I just had a couple pieces of aluminum. That's another thing people do, is you're gonna go practice, right? So you get a round piece of tube, you lay it on your table, and you put a grounding strap on it, and you're gonna practice TIG welding on it, brace it, take a little bit of time, find something you can to hold it, because you're not gonna be able to practice if a tube's rolling all over your table. It's just not gonna work out well for you. So get something and brace it. So yeah, and here's the other thing that I'll see with the this applies to all TIG welding, but this happens on tube all the time. So I'll make my dimes, I'll doop 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 doop, and I'll stop. And when you stop, especially when you're starting, you stop too quickly, and you usually get kind of like a pinhole in the center, and that's just the way it cools. and how the grain solidifies. And then what happens is people will start here, right? And then they'll just do that again, and they'll stop, and they'll end up with a little butthole right there, and they'll keep doing that. So what you have to do is you have to take and start. What I do is I usually start in front of where I last left off at, and I'll back up into it, and I'll remelt that last bead, and then I dab it, and then you start going forward. And you just do that every time, and that way you almost can't tell where you started and where you stopped, and it ties it all together. There's no places that could be like stress problems, and that. And when you end, usually what happens is your welding tube is you'll go all the way around it, obviously, because you're usually trying to weld two pieces of tube together. You always go back onto your beads before you stop. So obviously you have a little extra meat in there, but as you're trilling off, maybe just add like a little dab. And trill off slowly. That's going to avoid those buttholes. Is just kind of trill off slowly. Maybe wiggle your torch around a little bit, and that's it. So aluminum is the exact same thing. It's just use the aluminum setup. So it's the buttholes on aluminum are much more pronounced too. So that's one thing I keep in mind. And again, with the aluminum, I noticed kind of like if you start in front of where you last left off. So let's say I just did these beads right here on aluminum. I'm going to start kind of way far forward. So not just a dab forward, but maybe 4 dabs forward. I'm going to hit it and go back quickly and then start moving forward. What that does is you'll see whenever you start, it leaves kind of an etching mark, and that kind of cleans that etching mark up when you zoom back and then move forward again. But you have to do the same thing. You have to remelt your last puddle and dab it and move forward. And then on that last one, give it a little extra love, put a few more dabs in there. So that should be it. Just practice these, and I think that the next video we'll be doing is like actually tacking. So I have a lot of questions about tacks, especially tacking aluminum, so we'll make that the next video. I think there's something to be learned here, and there's definitely something to be gained. You're not going to get good at welding tubes and maintaining that proper torch height and that torch angle unless you do that. And then you also, again, you have to stay comfortable, and if you're not comfortable, it's not going to go well for you. And if it's not going well, stop and figure out what you're doing wrong. So without further ado, I'll put the video in here. Okay, everybody, so we're starting out on some stainless steel here, and you see I got my number 16 GLS cup. Just like I said, the tungsten is a 3/32 thoriated, and the filler is 1/16 308L Blue Demon tungsten and filler. All of which is available on the website, and you'll see here we're starting in front of where we left off at, and we back up into the puddle and we move forward. That's all there is to it. I just usually do about, like I said, 6 to 8 dabs, and you see I don't really rotate my cup like I should. I tend to do a little better when I'm actually on headers and round things that are not as kind of sketchy as this as this little tube smashed between a couple pieces of aluminum. But what that does, like I said, is it keeps that area shielded, and it also makes it so I'm able to make pretty decent dabs. Just again aiming towards the center, going a little higher arc length than I normally would if I was doing like a fillet weld, and then just trying to drop that filler right underneath the arc is kind of how I roll. So start in front, back up, and I'm just aiming right kind of dead center of that arc, and I'm not going to go until I'm uncomfortable, because as soon as that starts happening, then everything kind of goes badly. Okay, so we're getting started on our second bead on the stainless, and on this second one I'm just kind of trying to show you what happens when you end too quickly. You can see that little spot in the center there, and then what it looks like when you don't back up and remelt that before going forward. So what I tried to do, I didn't do a very good job at the first one here, but I just start kind of at the end where the puddle kind of last left off, move forward, and I'll end abruptly here. Boop. Yep. And you'll just watch that center spot just kind of come to it. There's that little pinhole or butthole. It's not really a hole usually. It's just kind of a weak spot. Start without backing up, and that just makes for, you'll see that. I mean, it's pretty common with people that are just starting out. They just assume they already welded there, so there's no need to go back and re-weld it. But you have to get in there and clean that up. And here's one of my least favorite techniques, the old pedal stomp. Just not a good look, not a good look. So you'll see it leaves little, little buttholes in every dab. I'm kind of doing that purposefully, but I see it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't see it. So here's another angle, same thing, and just don't do this at home. That's why I've been learning these drills about how to control the heat, how to use the pedal and your travel speed to get the right heat. Everything you've seen today has been done at 58 amps, just using the pedal and the travel speed. And onto the aluminum, same setup I always use. It's balance is 65. The frequency I think was around 100, 120. Using 1/16 5356 Blue Demon filler rod here. The number 5 standard collet gas flow is going to be at like 15. I had a little high for this. You see a little extra etching band on this. I could have turned it down and played with it, but wanted to get this video done. And I'm just showing you, you see the butthole there when you end, and you'll see me start in front of that. And I'm just kind of showing you here how I do it. And we'll do that. We'll just start in front of, we'll back up, we'll remelt that last dab, and then we'll move forward again. And at the end of it, like I said, you just want to trail off slowly, give it a few extra little dabs of aluminum, and that's how you do it. Oh, the amps is 150. Okay, right here you can see the filler just get kind of gummed up. That's what happens when you're not really sharp with your movements. I was probably welding a little bit cold in this guy, but yeah, you got to get the heat in there, and you got to dart that thing in there and get out. You don't want to slowly sneak up on it, or that's what you get. Usually you get little horrible black boogers along with that. That one just kind of lucked out, and it wasn't too bad. But just something to keep in mind. Quick movements with the aluminum. All right, on this string here, I'm just going to show you what happens when you don't, when you snap out of your pedal on aluminum, and what it looks like when you don't back up into the puddle, remelt it, add your dab, and then start moving forward. You're just going to leave those little holes in the end showing for everybody in the world to see. So that's what you're watching here. And it'll play, and they'll come back to me, and I'll say, thanks everybody, I appreciate you checking out Monkey Fab. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this helped you, and if you'd like to help me, be sure to stop by my website. It's in the link below. It's monkeyfabgarage.com, and we got all kinds of cool car fabrication stuff and welding supplies. Thanks for stopping by. It's Mike Monkey Fab out.